Hello everyone, I am Tacit, and today I'm going to be going over the Gems of War Bolt from the Blue event, in which the Cobalt Drake is added to the game. However, that is not the most important troop that was added to the game this week. That would have to go to the Huntmaster Arborius, which has been added through the Journey event. Of course, lately we've been getting a lot of really good Journey troops that basically just spam a bunch of a color, and this guy is particularly useful. He ends up spamming a ton of red. And this has great synergy with things like Diamantina, that one red ruby dragon. It's very powerful, even World Breaker and stuff like that, Dragon Guard hero class. But the main thing that makes him more powerful than anything, because of course, generally just on paper, he'd have the same stats as the other ones. Same as the green one that spams, the purple one, the brown one, all those kind of things. The main thing that makes this particularly powerful is it is the only one that can currently be shinied out of any of them. It is in the shiny drop table this week, which is actually worth mentioning, and we're probably actually going to do a key opening for them later, not right now though, once we can actually go and max it. But it is in the shiny drop table, and I would say by far up to date, this is the strongest shiny we have ever had availability to such a degree I'm actually going for. Keep in mind, we're probably going to be getting another 2 of these. We're still missing 2 colors. Can I remember what they are off the top of my head? They are blue and yellow, I believe. Yes, blue and yellow. That's probably wrong, though. It's probably right. I don't remember. I believe it's blue and yellow. Are the only 2 of those we haven't gotten yet, so they will be coming in the near future. What will happen to the shininess of the other 3? I have no clue. But as it stands, the red one, blue and yellow, the other 2 that aren't in, will end up becoming shiny. So they will become very, very powerful by doing so. And this guy's synergy is really interesting due to his Rubraf and Diamantina synergy. It could just feed into really big AoEs. In the case of Rubraf's case, really high extra turn chance with it too. And yeah, it's one of the strongest troops in the entire game now because of it. But anyways, let's go and go over everything in order. And then we'll double back on him and go explain him, because we're going to be talking about him a lot during this. But anyways, Cobalt Drake. He's the standard glory troop you can get this week. Unfortunately, pretty underwhelming. He's for 300 glory, so you can't even stock up fully on the arcane. Though you can stock up on the other 3 resources if you really want to. Aside from that, it's not that good. Just deal some splash damage to an enemy, then converts 4 brown gems to blue giant gems. It's not the worst trip in the game, but there's really no situation where you'd bring this out over a different option. So, unfortunately, even with the event restrictions this week, you're just not going to end up using this guy, especially because of how strong the other one already is. So, as far as event keys are concerned, we do have Dragon's Claw, and there are quite a handful of things that are not in drop table. So, let's go over all of those first, as there are several. So first, Periton, not in drop table. This is only from Guild Wars occasionally. Once every 6 Guild Wars, we end up getting that. All 4 Wyrmrun troops, not in drop table. They are from the Wyrmrun faction. Next, not on the drop table is... I know there's a few more. Where are they? They must all be the mythic ones. The other 2 that are not is the Horde Mimic. Horde Mimic is an absurdly rare troop you get from doing Explore. Basically, every time you get a chest in Explore, there's a chance you get a 2x Mimic. And then inside that 2x Mimic, there's a chance there's a 5x Mimic. And inside of that 5x Mimic, there's a chance to get the Horde Mimic. It is probably one of the most annoying troops in the entire game to get if you haven't already gotten it. However, it does make you go do a lot of Explore 12 to get a bunch of tokens, so it's pretty nice in that regard. However, it is a pretty long grind. You can get it on any level of Explore, however, doing it on the highest possible gives you the best overall odds as you'll cycle through more chests. Each chest has the same rate for it, however, the more shards that you're getting from the higher level Explorers, the more chests you'll cycle through, meaning if you can consistently take out Explore 12 at a quick rate, that is your best way of getting the Horde Mimic, but he is not in event key drop table. And the other one that isn't is, of course, Diamantina. You have to RNG for all 6 of the eggs, then craft the 2 weapons, and then craft Diamantina. It's quite a bit of a process, takes a while, and you can get very dry on it, and very unlucky, as we did. However, you do eventually get it over time. This requires a lot of Dragonites in the thousands. But anyways, those are all the ones that are not. As far as useful things that are, I would say it's in pretty average drop table. There's a lot of good utility dragons out there. Technically the highest spell reduction one, even though T9000 effectively does more tankiness than it, despite its lower reduction. There's Elamagrim and Ishtar. More so Elamagrim gets used ever so occasionally. And, burn teams create a bunch of purple. There's utility troops here. Early game Souls is here. But for the most part, nothing's really like a must-have. It's mostly just if you want to bolster up your array of dragons that you have. You have a good barrier option. Egg Thief used in gold meta teams. Actually, we just got one a couple weeks ago. We got that one Goblin that farms a bunch of gold, and Egg Thief has pretty good synergy with that. But overall, just a lot of very situational troops that don't get used to often. With the one main exception being this guy, however, I forgot to mention it, but Huntmaster Arborius is also not in drop table. He will be in the future, but as of this week, right now, during this 7-day period of right now, during this event drop table, he is not in drop table. So don't try opening event keys for him either. He's from the Journey event. Speaking of which, we might as well get into the Journey event, as most of this video will be talking about this guy. So there are some changes that were made to Journey event. The most noteworthy one is the Journey trip now has 2 times magic. So you get double day magic for it. So instead of having your standard amount, it'll now be doubled. So that's a pretty substantial amount of damage increase. The scoring still works exactly the same. The way that you want to do journeys is take bigger number every single time. And then with that, always make sure you have at least 1 copy of the Journey troop on your team in order to get the 3-time score. Using multiple does not make your score go up. However, it also doesn't make it go down. So it might be worthwhile to use 2, 3, or if you really had to, 4 of them onto your team. Though ideally only 2 or 3. But you do not get penalized for using multiple of him. However, you are required to use at least 1 of him in order to get the extra points. And you do have to max him. Unlike a lot of the other reworks we've been getting, where simply having it on your team was just a 2-time score. It still follows the old Journey system, and you do have to fully max your troop in order to get the 3-time score. Otherwise, you'll only be getting a 2-time score. Anyways, aside from that, I did end up buying the little booster thingy just to kind of try it out. There are 2 offers that they do midway through the weeks these days. Or, well, one's technically on the weekend. The one that's midway through the week, not as good normally. I would generally just skip it every single time. However, I did finally try the other one, which is actually a little bit more useful. It gives you like 5 shiny tokens towards your towards the next trip of the week, which of course we already knew Huntmaster Arborius would be this week. So we end up doing it for him. You end up getting like a silver glory medal, and I think a little bit of shiny keys. Was it overall worth it? Not sure. But this guy's so broken, I figured we'd do it. It's a little pay to win in that regard. However, I kind of wanted to get him max to kind of show him, as he does gain an additional benefit on his second trait, as all of them do. And in his particular case, he gets 1 additional red gem spawn, which how many red gem spawns he does is already insane. So have I actually not even gone over to click on his ability yet? So, of course, the main thing that actually makes this guy so broken, of course, I mentioned that he's like all the other ones. However, for any of you that don't know what they're like, the Journey troops, or at least a lot of the more recent Journey troops we'll be getting, they deal damage to an enemy, then create some amount of a color, in this case red, and which always feeds back into itself, which is the most relevant thing. And then it's boosted by a specific ally, in this case, dragons. So what you can end up doing with this is stacking this for a ton of mana accumulation. He by default will be creating 6. 3 because, you know, default is 3. Another 3 because, well, he's always the type of whatever it is, in this case, dragon. And then you'll end up getting an additional 9 for a total of 15. However, that's not where it ends anymore. It is actually possible to get a 16th gem by getting it to shiny level 2. We can't quite see that fully, but if we go over to his card right over here, if we go down to the troop, if I could figure out where on earth he is, alphabetical order, still can't find it. Well, it's in rarity order, then alphabetical. But anyways, so if we go over to, I forget where this is, I think it's like right over here, right down there. We can't see it yet, but once you get that upgraded spell, of course, the way that shininess works is the first one is -1 mana cost. The second one is a special effect, which is 1 additional red spot on him. Doesn't show it here, but it is what it is. And then, of course, once fully maxed, it'll be 2 lower mana costs, which brings him down to only 10 instead of 11, instead of 12. So 2 lower. Overall, really solid. You might not even need a mana star on him. You can just do like the 20%, which is good because the 50% mana star dragon's pretty bad. So you won't necessarily need that as much with the 1 or 2 lower mana costs, as it's pretty much covering it already. He gets the Hunter's Mark, so he has a bit of skull damage. He has scroll reduction, so he has your synergy there. Unfortunately, this does nothing other than this week. However, it's pretty helpful this week, if nothing else. But still, 2 really solid traits otherwise for a Journey troop. Anyways, back to Journey. Where's Journey event? So as far as Journey, so yeah, we have this little booster thing. It also gives you like a starting amount of points. I think we get like 3,000 or something. But you know, that makes it a little bit easier to finish out everything. If we can see right over here, we actually start with the 3,000, which is actually kind of useful. If you are ever going to buy one of these, it might be worthwhile to consider doing it into a Journey event if the troop is really good, like it was this time around. Unfortunately, you can't get it now. You can only get like the weekend prior. However, it makes it easier to get the achievement for 20,000, as what we were already at 3,000. Of course, we already have the achievement, but one thing to consider if you still want to go get it and don't mind throwing some money at it, though is definitely not required to do. As far as things that you do generally want to do, you probably want to buy up to about Tier 3 or Tier 4. Tier 3 is 250 gems, Tier 4 is 500 gems. Tier 3 gives you a new weapon. Unfortunately, a new weapon is useless, but it's for completion's sake and can help you upgrade the kingdom. Tier 4, the main reason you'd want to do this is if you throw 2 blue orbs on him, you'll get him maxed and have more than 1 copy. You have to buy up to Tier 4 to be able to get, at minimum, to be able to have more than one copy on your team. And you may notice that we're using a lot of them. Almost all of our teams are using multiple of him. And to be able to do that, you have to buy to tier 4 and use 2 blue orbs rather than 1. If you go and upgrade it and ascend it, you'll only have 1 copy left. And you'll be able to use 1 blue orb to max it. However, you'll only have 1 copy of him and not multiple copies of him. So I would say the overall best value is tier 4 and then double blue it. Assuming you have the resources to do so, which would cost 500 gems and 2 small blues to max him out. And this will allow you to use 2 or 3 of him on any given team, even 4 if you really wanted to go down that route, if you really had nothing, which might be actually kind of useful earlier in the game, if you're really lacking every possible option. But yeah, tier 4 overall best value, I would say. Just make sure not to ascend him through his ascension. Make sure to ascend him with the little blue orb thingies, just so you can keep some spare copies. Otherwise, you won't be able to get more copies of this guy until about 6 weeks from now, meaning that if you want to run at any of the broken teams that use multiple reds of him, or, multiple of him, you would have to wait all the way until probably October, sometime in October, like mid-October, early October. Summer's around then is when he'll be back in drop table. Anyways, aside from that, so yeah, scoring and everything still the same. They did extend the rewards, though. They also slightly tweaked how the scaling goes. However, overall, it's not that many more points. Of course, you still have the other later section that you need to go get more points for. However, they also rescaled the previous section, one of the only few events that really had that as well. From what I could tell, they didn't raise it that much, but they mostly did it to account for like all the triples and everything else, which I'm not sure why they didn't initially. It was already like that, but there's 2 pretty noteworthy things to mention about journeys that we haven't already. The first one is there's a lot of deeds. There's a ridiculous amount of deeds. We get a bunch of writs right there. You get a bunch of standard deeds. You get some Imperials. You get some deed books. And now some new extended loot that you get. You also get, the standard ones we always get now. Some extra shiny keys, some shiny tokens towards the troop, and pet orb, all that kind of stuff. An extra major orb all the way down there. However, journeys are most noteworthy for the deeds that you end up getting from it. They are very, very good, and it's one of the most consistent ways to just get a ton of them. And one interesting thing now is journey events, as you guys may know from the past, they've almost never happened. They were doing like 3, maybe 4 per year, give or take. However, it looks like over the new system that they added in 7.0, the new event system that they're basically rolling out every single month and everything, it does seem like about once a month, we are likely going to be getting a journey event. And if that's the case, the rate at which we're going to be getting deeds just got super buffed as the most recent patch. It already got buffed slightly earlier this year when we got the merchant update with the merchant angels, though a lot of that was gem locked, but the ones from angels you can still get even without gems. But a lot of that was gem locked. And while this is somewhat gem locked, the fact that this is going to be occurring a lot more often, and you can just throw down like 250 or 500 gems to your guild, and if everyone participates, you should be able to go get these loots. That's a lot of very cheap, very accessible, very common deeds that you'll be able to get, which should substantially increase the rate at which we upgrade kingdoms, which of course is great because deeds are currently one of the most annoying resources in the entire game in order to upgrade stuff. It's one of the most bottlenecked ones out of anything. However, they are making steps in the right direction to make them more common, and this is one of them that was adjusted in 7.0. As I do believe we're getting one of these events about every month compared to like once a year, like before. Anyways, so that's pretty much everything with Journey. Same thing as always, just Troop is slightly more broken, well, a lot more broken this week. And you get a little bit extra loot at the end, and it might be more common than normal. Anyways, other things that we have going on this week, as there are still other things. Festival of Feathers, if you haven't already finished it out, make sure to keep poking at your battles. Ideally, you want to get 1 Owl Armor, 1 Grim Feather, 6 copies of the pet, 5 to initially max it, and then 1 to get the golden pet, so you can max that at a later point, and an Orb of Power. Of course, you can go for whatever you want, but it's generally the main rundown. 1, 1, 1, and then 6 of this guy. And that's pretty much all you need. If you want to go for the other things, you can. However, those are the more important ones to end up grabbing. If you've been doing this every single day and throwing 50 gems per day and 100 on one of the days, well, technically 150 total, but an extra 100 on one of those days, you will be able to get everything that I just mentioned. Though, of course, you could do less or more depending on what you want to get from it. But those are the core loot that you generally want to go for. Gameplay's a little same. We'll show the same teams, but it's the exact same as it was last time, so not much of a change there. Anyways, though, do make sure to be doing that still the rest of this week in order to get the rest of your loot. Anything, other events that we have going on throughout the week. This Tuesday, we have the faction event for the Wyrmrun faction, that one with that one skull guy that you might see every now and then. He's tripled up occasionally. Luckily, the one for faction only is one of them. Wednesday, we're going to be having the International Dog Day pet for 2023. I've been handing out a bunch of them for 2020 on the streams, if you guys been catching any of them. We've been handing out codes for the 2020 International Dog Day and International Cat Day pet recently. and we stream every single night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But aside from that, we are getting the 2023 one this Wednesday. We already got the Cat one for 2023 2 weeks ago, not last week, but the week prior to that. But this is the other one, so make sure to go get it. This thing, who knows when it will be available again at this point. So definitely make sure to go and get it on Wednesday. It is cosmetic and everything, however, it is very annoying, though not impossible to get in the future. Though it's very sporadic when on Earth it may, if ever, return. Anyways, Thursday we have the class event for Drakengard. Drakengard, not the greatest of classes, however, it does get a bit of a buff now that we have that ridiculously good red dragon add to the game. And aside from that, this Friday we have ourselves the... gosh, I know what this is. I don't know how to word this. The Deep Delve Underworld... Yeah, the Underworld Deep Delve for Amethrax. There we go. So that one where Truffle resides. It's getting a deep delve. The most relevant thing about this is we actually get 30-star Zaejin from this. Zaejin is currently 29-starable, and as of that troop, it'll be 30-starable, making it the third 30-star kingdom in the game. One thing that's kind of funny is they're all right next to each other. Sword's Edge could be 30-starred, Pride Lands could be 30-starred, and as of this Friday, not right now, but as of this Friday, Zaejin can be 30-starred. Unfortunately, you don't want to do that. The reason being is it uses green, and there is another kingdom that you'd want to upgrade that is green, and that is Zolkari. Zolkari has a magic bonus, and even though Zaejin team bonus is kind of nice, the permanent magic on every single one of your allies for +2 drastically outweighs whatever benefit you would end up getting from upgrading Zaejin. So it is much higher priority to upgrade Zolkari first. However, if you somehow have a billion deeds at some point, Zaejin would be the next one after that at this current state of game. So that could change by the time Zolkari's fully max and you have enough for the other one. But as it currently stands, you definitely want to do Zolkari first, and then Zaejin. Meaning basically no one will have a max Zaejin kingdom, even though it's technically possible to do so as of this Friday. Anyways, aside from that, in other news, let's go to Soulforge. Actually, I didn't even look at the troops yet, though there are some good weapons you do want to pick up. As far as troops, let's see. As far as troops, it looks like you can skip everything, so that's good. No mythics you really need to go for. Most of them pretty bad here. Next, we have ourselves the weapons, and as far as weapons, there are a few noteworthy ones to mention. And by a few, I mean one, because I'm pretty sure actually the most rest of these aren't really too good. But if you are going to get any one of the dragon weapons for Dragon's Claw, I would say your best way is to go Mace of Claws. It's a nice dragon boost ratio team. There's a bunch of red, there's a bunch of purple boost ratios from all dragons. Very situational, but the new dragon can synergize pretty well with it. And are just dragons in general that like to have a lot of red and purple, particularly red, though purple gets to be used a little bit there. But if you're going to get any one weapon, I would say make sure to get this one. This is one of those pretty generic weapons, but it has pretty good synergy with a lot of dragons. More so than some of the other weapons we've been getting in recent times. Anyways, aside from that, let's go over all the teams. Starting all the way from the top. So all these will be in the description below if you want to go and copy-paste any of them. And you might notice a reoccurring theme with some of these teams. We might be using Huntmaster Arborius just a couple times. You might pick up on it slightly. Anyways, so... this thing is an infinite loop into itself, as are all of them. However, it is even more infinity than normal, because you will have 11 mana cost. It sure currently shows 12, even though it's shiny. This is a visual glitch. They'll probably fix it by next patch. But you'll, by default, even if you've spent nothing towards them, no shiny keys, no money, you will have an 11 gem spawn by the time you get to the end of the event, because you'll be able to get 5 from your guild-wide event. So you'll be able to get them exactly like this, to 11 mana cost. Pretend that's 11. It does say 11. Just visually is broken. But it is indeed 11. So you'll be able to at minimum get that. And if you happen to go further, you'll get an extra red gem spawn on the second one. And eventually, at some point, though no time in the future, you'll also be able to go and get them all the way down to a 10 mana cost, which will make it even more broken. This will likely happen to the other journey events that we have coming up in the near future. However, as it currently stands, this is the only one that is like this, making it by far the most broken of any of the journey troops. It is infinite reds, even more so than normal, with a lower mana cost, make it even more consistent, meaning you can multi-up on it for even better value. And Dragon's pretty good synergy, main reason being Wyrmrun. Wyrmrun has two main things going for him. One, he creates a firestorm at start of battle, meaning if you can start your infinite loop before the first 4 turns, you will have more mana than you could possibly know what to do with. You also get a little bit extra magic to all your red allies, and of course, this guy counts as a red ally. And aside from that, the other thing that's pretty useful is he gets to have a 10% chance to gain an extra turn, boosted by red gems. You're going to have a lot of red gems on the board, and while this is not absurdly consistent, let's say there's like 15 red gems on the board, that would be a 40% chance to get an extra turn from this. So if you want to do like a finishing blow, you can. During the journey event, you probably don't want to do that too much. Like outside a journey event, maybe. But during journey event, you want to be a little bit more selective with it. The main reason being is this guy has 2 times magic during the journey events, which is so much extra damage that you might just be spamming him the entire time. Wyrmrun is almost here more so for the red storm than anything. Though you can also do similar with Dragon Guard since he also has a red storm for 4 turns. I just figured we'd go Wyrmrun here. Anyways, next. We have basically the same team, but downgraded. Once again, you can run hero here with a weapon. However, we end up going down Magma Dragon for the Infinite Brown Red Storm. Even though this is a legend, I still count it as low rarity as it's a legend that is from a faction. So you can just throw some shards at Fire Rift and get this guy pretty easily. Within a couple thousand, realistically a lot less than that, a couple hundred even, could end up doing it. But same premise of team. You just spam this guy until you win. Worst comes to worst, if you don't want to go do this, just put a 4th Huntsman there, you'll be fine. Next we have the same Festival of Feathers teams. Nothing has changed here, but I figured I'd re-put them here in case anyone still wants to copy-paste any of them. Which is kind of funny because I actually use a slightly different team. I actually use a Catharix Iron Gut team for my main one that we've been using. But this team still does effectively about the same thing. I just ended up defaulting back to Catharix just to mess around with them more. Anyways, faction event, we have a red-yellow restriction for Wyrmrun. As far as that is concerned, you can run a pretty standard Guards, Avatar, Surqua, and Headley team. However, the other team I actually made it a little bit cheaper this time. Well, other than the Wyrmrun, I guess. Though you could replace that out, of course, for other options, as we mentioned earlier. However, basically, we're using the Dragon's Claw weapon, the one we mentioned earlier, in order to feed a bunch of red. Unfortunately, the purple doesn't do anything in this team. But we're just doing this with double Huntsman into Wyrmrun. And this will end up getting our AoE as a possibility. We have Dragon Guard to go tank. And we're just spamming this guy until we win, as is most of these teams this week. As far as the Pure faction, you're run Terror Worm with 1 billion Great Worms. Terror Worm is your main team. You could even double up on it if you want to play a little bit safer. And his whole premise is he has a bunch of skull reduction into gaining a bunch of attack and armor. Anything that does this in Underworld is a pretty consistent troop. And, yeah, anything that has this pretty strong. So you just keep spamming this until you win. We even set the banner a little bit more into him, into double yellow red and double red. Normally you'd want to put into your AoE, but in this case you actually do want to spam your tank a little bit more. Main reason being you're actually creating skulls every turn, 6 of them. And this can actually backfire on your Terror Worm. So you want to make sure he's always ahead the curve, even if you feel like you have way too much durability. Normally in other ones, you would only buff him up like right when it's about to die to get it off of being killed with 1 shot. However, due to the fact that you're creating 1 billion skulls per turn, 6 specifically if you're using this exact team, or if you're doubling up on Terror Worm, those skulls, while useful, can backfire on you. So you always want to make sure this guy has way more than enough durability, because you might take a double skull or even a triple skull at some point, so you always want to be ahead of the curve. And worst comes to worst, you can just keep spamming this guy's AoE until you win if the skull route isn't going good enough. Next we have Dragon Guard. Dragon Guard uses a nice diverse team of, guess who's back? Triple Huntsman! And we're just doing it with Summer's Fury, just because it has extra turn chance. Obviously you could do any red weapon like Dawnbringer or anything else. But we're doing Summer's Fury as it's a little bit cheaper, and it has extra turn chance, unlike Dawnbringer. Well, Dawnbringer technically does, but it's such a low chance that we're probably not getting it. And of course we have Underspire, and guess what we're running for Underspire? Underspire is specifically a Dragon's Claw restriction. So you're not restricted only to red, however, like the Journey event is. However, yeah, you probably still want to go red. We're going Triple Huntsman into Diamantina. This is actually the first time we brought out the Diamantina, mostly because we can't actually run it in the other mode. However, really strong. Has a bunch of AoE damage, gains a bunch more extra magic. Does have Bone Storm instead of Firestorm, however, that's not too big a deal. You're creating so many reds, it's barely going to matter. And for the low rarity of Underspire, we're using the Mace of Claws into Huntsman, and actually using the purple for once. We're using it to create red. We're using the Lord Ember, nice low rarity epic. That you probably have laying around. If you don't, you can throw some event keys this week and get them very easily. And this guy is mostly just here to create some more reds. Use this to get the Huntsman up. If you only have one of these, you could replace out the Huntsman with any red damage dragon you have in the last slot. It doesn't matter what it is. You can just put it there if you only have one of them. However, if you do have the multiple, do double up on it. And yeah, just keep spamming them as you normally would, and you'll be good to go. And that's pretty much a rundown on all of the teams. If you guys still have any other questions, feel free to leave it in the comment section below. Tonight, we are going to be going and messing around with this new troop, as I haven't really had the chance to mess around with him, but we already know what he's going to do. We've already seen this. We've seen it with Chalcedony, we've seen it with Todd, we've seen it with everything else. All the gem spawns that we have available already. These things are really, really absurdly good. And the biggest upside of this is currently the only one of them that can be shinied, which gives it quite a bit more of a benefit compared to the others, making it among one of the strongest, if not the strongest troop currently within the game. Maybe not absolute strongest, but the potential that it has is ridiculously absurdly high. I do hope they don't pay to win too many of these, though. Like, they almost seem to be going directionally. Because we've had a couple good ones, so this one has definitely been the best that we've had shiny. And they do normally have like that $10 offer thingy beforehand, which not only do people generally probably not know like how good it is, but then after the fact you can't end up getting. It's a little bit of a weird system. Not a big fan of it, but I figured I'd try it just for this once, just to kind of see it. I probably won't do it again, but I just kind of figured just to see. As it did seem kind of worthwhile this time, though we were going to get at least 2 more of these that are like these for the other 2 colors we still do not have, and who knows, sometime in the future they'll probably add a billion more broken things into shinies. I hope they don't end up doing that ultimately, or slightly tweak the shiny key system, as of course, as it currently stands, it is a very static resource that cannot be particularly infinitely farmed. They basically added a whole deed issue all over again overall, but we'll see how it goes into the future. Obviously, it's the first update of it, so we could still be getting more updates pretty soon that will be changing it. We should actually know the roadmap for next month, and while we don't know if they're going to post like, hey, here's date of update, we might get a general idea of when the update is as of the end of this month. So in about a week from now when we cover that video, hopefully we'll know. If nothing else, we'll know what events are going on throughout the entire month, and we'll go from there. Anyways, tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, as I mentioned, we'll still be handing out the cat and dog codes for the 2020 ones, as well as messing around with Journey event. So if you want to see some live Journey event or catch it after the fact, the video, of course, will be up on this, or the stream of it will be up on this channel. And yeah, we'll go from there. Have a bunch of fun with the Journey event, and see how broken this troop ultimately is, which we already know how broken it is. We don't really need to use it that much to know what its potential is going to be. It's obviously got an infinite loop like all the other ones, or it's like pseudo-infinite. However, the 1 extra red gem spawn, once we have it, will make it a lot more consistent to be an actual infinite loop. Because the other ones, while very loopy, were not like true infinites. They were very close to it, but not true. They would eventually fail. 1 extra red gem spawn obviously doesn't make it infallible, however, it does make it substantially higher. You might not think 1 single gem spawn is a lot, but once you start getting to those big numbers, every little bit extra is a huge amount. And while having a lower mana cost and everything else has so much potential going forward. And we're going to be getting more of these too in the future. This is not the only one. This is just the only one that currently exists in this exact form, with both shiny and having that overall ability. But anyways, guys, that'll wrap it up for now. Enjoy your week. Catch you guys soon. And thanks for watching, everyone. Goodbye.